Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to your weekly astrological weather. This is your place to get practical guidance for not only navigating the cosmic tides, but thriving with them. My name is Amanda Walsh. I'm the founder of Astrology Hub, and I am here with your favorite predictive astrologer, our weather woman, Anne Ortelee. And we're so grateful that you're here. You know, we do a grounding before we come live, and we kind of set the space. And today, Anne said something that I loved so much. She said, we're reaching out to our community who is gathering around the campfire of their computers right now. And I just had this visual of all of you coming to your computers here for the weekly weather, whether you're listening live or to the recording. And it's just really fun to think about all of you out there. So thank you so much for joining us. And Anne, let's dive into the week in terms of the intensity scale of 1 to 10. What would you give the week ahead?
It's going to be another one of those variable ones. I don't think it's going to go crazy, but we have a lot of Neptune this week. And so what happens with Neptune is when we have that much, we have, sorry about that, when Uranus, hello Uranus, welcome. We have a lot of Neptune this week, so last week when the moon was traveling all by himself across the sky, moon was by himself. So some people could have felt very alone or by themselves. And now as the moon's going into Capricorn and then Aquarius and then Pisces and then Aries this week. So he's coming through the bowl of planets. They're all gathered on one side. But we're also having Sun and Venus come to square the nodes. The Sun did last week. Venus squares it this week. And it's a situation we call in the bends in astrology, BENDS, like remember when you go deep diving and you come up too fast, you get the bends. So it's a very active, energetic placement. So some people may sail right through it, and some people may go, oh, I'm crying. So last week you could have cried because the moon was all by himself, way over there, watching everybody, and you felt alone and maybe a little isolated. And it was training wheel week. It was a very bumpy, a little of this, little of that, little of this. But this week definitely promises a bit more emotion. That said, you may have done a lot of processing of emotion. And then you're going to take that Venus, Neptune, Sun conjunction, and you're going to square the nodes of fate, and you're going to work on your dream and what that is. You're going to have a different feel for it because it's on the it's in the bends, which gives us, of course, a choice. So think of Pisces coming in, and he goes, do I go to Sagittarius? Do I go to Gemini? What is I have a choice here. How do I want to proceed with the choice? And so it's a big week, not like terrible, turbulent, but deep emotional work. And we still have every planet reporting to Saturn. So when people worry, sometimes people worry about Saturn. And, what he is he's the planet of, this is where we have to take responsibility for our choices. So that's the grounding. When you get a little overwhelmed, you sit down and you go, okay, what are my choices? What are my options? Remember, Mars is in Gemini. So he gives us, you can do this or this. Explore both. You don't have to do both, but think about both of them. And Mercury this week is in the back end of Aquarius. He goes into Pisces. When he goes into Pisces, he gets very drifty, dreamy. So you got a good focused mental energy this week. But there can be an upswelling of emotion or feelings, or sometimes it's sadness, but sometimes it's deep inspiration. Think of Venus is in her exaltation in Pisces, and she's meeting up with Neptune, the Lord of the ocean, and she's meeting up with the Sun in Pisces. When we think of the Sun in Pisces as being very creative, artistic, spiritual, emotional, and it also can be drinking and partying, so we're going to have spring break, and it also can be where people get a little overwhelmed with the feelings. So if you find yourself bursting into tears this week, no problem. That's all the water. But also the way to handle it is to ground and to go, okay, let me ground. The moon aspects all close nicely this week. So that's helpful. The moon is when it's in Aquarius. Today it's in Capricorn. It's closing conjunction to Pluto. So that goes either way. but Pluto means like get serious. So I said to you when we were prepping for this, I was working on my taxes, right? The accounting energy. And then it goes into Aquarius, which is let me reach out and connect with my community. Then it goes into Pisces. And we have a new moon this week at the end of the week at 23 Pisces. And so that new moon at 23 Pisces happens with all this little conglomeration of energy hanging out by the node. So it's an initiating energy around emotions and feelings. Great week to get pregnant if you're trying to make a baby. Little merging, it's very fertile. All the stuff's up there going, yeah, I want to. So pregnancy, creativity, giving yourself permission to choose to choose what your creative journey is, because we always look at new moons as initiating. And the new moon is like 5 a.m. on the East Coast on Saturday. So adjust for your time zone. But it's a new moon in Pisces, and it's a really delicious kind of, I always think of new moon in Pisces is when you go out and you get that first whiff of spring in the winter, and you go, oh, spring is coming, So today it's 60 out here in New York, and it's not spring yet, but it smells like spring, So, and Pisces, of course, you have a heightened sense of smell. People with Pisces things always smell stuff. Back when I was younger, I smoked cigarettes for about 10 years, and I'd moved to New York. And so when I quit smoking, the subways really smelled bad because suddenly I had olfactory function again. And so Pisces smell bad things. It's like, they smell, it smells bad, so that's the energy of the week. So if you smell bad things, it's okay too. That's part of it.
That's Taurus too, right? Do they both have that?
Yeah, they have good news. The Aries and the Scorpios, they just, even if it smells bad, they eat it. The Pisces go, doesn't smell good. I have a friend who's a Pisces. She's a double Pisces. And she comes to my house and she throws away things. She smells it. And she goes, bad. And I'm like, it's oil. And she goes, and it's rancid. I'm like, I smell it and it smells, maybe churning. She's like, bad, and off it goes.
Yes.
She's very funny. And she's got an Aries rising. So she, of course, goes through my cupboards and looks for bad oil.
So great.
Yeah.
So, and it sounds like the major thing is this Venus, Neptune, Sun,
and then the moon
squaring. Oh, and the moon all can
have a new moon. Yeah,
squaring the nodes, the moon's nodes. Yeah, the nodes of fate. Mm-hmm. Okay, and if you had to, and it's all in the bends. I mean, so this is another layer of why it's important.
Yeah. So whenever planets square the nodes, we get faced with a choice. Well, anytime the nodes are involved, we have a choice. Do I do this or that? Because they're our fate, and we get to pick and decide. So when the planets square them, they say, what are you going to pick? Now, if it's a nice planet, like Venus, you go, ooh, this is what I'd like. If it's a mean planet, a malefic, you might go, this is like the Lady and the Tiger. There's not a good choice here, but you have to pick. And we always encourage people to pick towards the North Node because that is the path you're supposed to be following, right? So the idea is pick towards your own North Node, but when it's in the bends, pick towards the North Node in the sky. And it invites us to choose, but we can go other ways. And then, of course, Moon is going to be traveling through all the planets before he gets to the new moon. So it's kind of an emotional wrap up. A lot of people are going to really feel, they're doing a lot of anniversary of COVID, anniversary of the first case, anniversary of the lockdown, anniversary of Tom Hanks being diagnosed. And, it's hard to believe it's a year. It feels like it's a lot longer. But as the moon goes through all the planets that we experienced so intensely last year, we're going to be doing a lot of emotional processing around loss or around change or around shifting or around, what our vision is. And then, of course, we know after a pandemic, after those Saturn Pluto planets meet, they caused a major structural change in our life somewhere because everybody had it. Now we have the Renaissance this year where we have the opportunity to create the new life. What is that new life going to be? And that's what we're working on all year. But it is a little unclear because the old isn't quite gone yet. New isn't quite here yet. Now what? So Neptune is sitting in your ashram, sitting in your meditation space, sitting in your connection to divine. You're sitting in the thing that transports you. So like for me, I turn on piano music, or music. I turn on music without words. Like I'll turn on Brazilian music, but I don't know Spanish. So it just sounds like part of the music to me. It's not, I don't sing along with it. Right. Whatever takes you and pulls you out of your life for, 5-10 minutes, an hour. And then suddenly you go, oh, wow, an hour went by. And that's Neptune, right? That's what Neptune does. So this week with all these planets hovering around Neptune, we're going to really feel deep feelings. And also because Moon goes through all the stuff we've been struggling with the last year or so, now we're going to be doing like an emotional wrap up, really, for lack of a better word. So.
I was speaking with a friend yesterday who was acknowledging that as well. This feeling of, she's feeling, she's Brazilian, by the way. It's interesting.
Oh, okay.
She's feeling
I love her
this,
music.
yeah, she's feeling this
Brazilian station on Pandora. It's a great station. Yeah,
we'll definitely check it out. She's feeling this draw to. She wants to like clutch on to things of the past that feel like structured and rooted, and yet they're not that anymore. And she's looking towards the future, and it's scary because it's so unknown, because it's so nebulous at this point. And I think that a lot of people are feeling that. It's like, oh, I want to go back and feel some of that groundedness that I had. And yet it's like an illusion back there. It's not there anymore. And yet the future is still very unclear. So I love what you're saying about going into this space where we are dreaming that in and allowing certain things to transport us into those places where we can actually do that. Right.
Yeah. And that, I think, when we do that, that's the good way to cope with this energy, because it is, or similarly, if you drive, I think of Neptune, he's foggy. If you've ever driven on a foggy day, I grew up upstate, so there was fog. And when I was working at Pepsi, we would, the mornings, especially in the fall going into winter, there was always this fog, and I would drive this road through the reservoirs. There's reservoirs upstate that feed the water to New York. Drive through the reservoir and it'd be foggy, and then the fog would shift. And it's a road I drove a lot. The fog would shift, and you get a glimpse of the water in the fog, and then it would come in again, and it was like, oh. So imagine you're walking on a beach. There's fog, there's ocean, there's houses. You're going somewhere. You just don't know where you're going. And that's okay. It's trusting that. I like to believe in a benevolent universe. I was reading something yesterday on, I don't know what it was, Facebook, where the guy was arguing God doesn't care about us, and it's not a benevolent universe. Yeah, I don't know, this whole kind of an agnostic role. And I went, yeah, but when you look at a chart and you watch it unfold and you understand the unfolding of the life. And this week I taught a course to an astrology school out in the Midwest, and we were doing progression. So the teacher likes the owner, the owner of the school likes me to work with the students' charts. So 25 students in the class, so they all got like a little mini reading where they were demonstrating the technique. And I don't know these people from Adam, and I'm reading a chart cold, and I'm like, bup, 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 and then it would be yes. And then I go, bup, 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 and then it would be yes. We were looking at very different people, very different places in their lives. So I'm like, trust the chart. The chart tells the truth. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times our interpretation of it as an astrologer isn't always right. We can look at something and go, oh my God, that's going to be, and I'm like, yeah, you can look at it that way. You can also look at it other ways. You can look at it and say, well, what else can it be? When we read traditional texts that have a little scary stuff in them, our job is to go, okay, that's something it can be, but it can also be something else. And so let's look at what else it can be rather than the scary stuff. And that, the idea is that chart's got that configuration for you to do something with it. You get to decide how you want to handle it. So that's where the free will comes in, the energy of, you can't stop a rainstorm, but you can figure out whether you're going out with an umbrella, you're going to stay home, you're going to watch the rain from the porch. What are you going to do? That's where we get the free will and choice. And the beauty of astrology, to my mind, is it warns us a little bit. It's our weather report. You know, you don't have to go out with an umbrella if you don't want to, but might make a good idea.
So would you say your practice of astrology has been confirmation to you that the universe is benevolent, but that people are choosing whether or not they want to engage with it from that perspective?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Okay. All right.
Well, because the chart describes it describes our earliest experience that frame us. So you and I were having a conversation earlier, and you said to me about me shifting all these ways of thinking about myself and doing things in a different way. And so you can see it probably clearer than I can. Remember, people looking at you often see the changes you're going through before you do, because you're in it, you're doing the changes. And then you get to the place and you're like, I've changed. Okay, that's interesting. So it's honoring that process of becoming. If we watch a time-lapse photography of a flower blooming, and I encourage everybody to do that this week. That's your homework assignment. Go find time-lapse photography of flowers blooming, butterflies hatching, things evolving and changing. Leaves falling off trees if you want, because you're feeling depressed. I'm good with that too. But or the seasons, where they do the picture and they show you 4 seasons of the same scene, where you get to see the seasons of the life. We're shifting seasons now. Yeah. What season are you entering? What's your vision of that season? Mm-hmm. And it isn't always easy, because people, are fearful of change, or they're fearful of the planets. And I kind of look at them and go, and of course I've gone through kind of, I've been doing this 26 years. So I've kind of gone through all these different cycles, and people saying, you're going to tell me anything bad. And I'm like, well, what's bad? Your parents are getting divorced. Oh my God, thank heavens. They've been fighting for years. Oh, what do you mean my parents are getting divorced? You do not know what the news is going to bring. All you know is you're going to get news, right? And then when it pops, you go, that's how it fits. Mm. So that's because when I studied astrology in my obsessive phase, I went back and looked at all the big events in my life. I didn't know about astrology, but the astrology described the big event.
Yes.
So it happened, it's like gravity. It happens whether you're paying attention to it or not. It's something we take for granted. But if we look at the charts, we can kind of see, there can be an opportunity here for me to work with some stuff.
Mm.
So.
Okay. Any other big aspects for the week?
The Sun squares the Neptune on the 10th, or gets to Neptune on the 10th. He squared the nodes last week, and Venus gets to Neptune. She squares the nodes on the 9th, and she gets to Neptune on the 13th. So it's kind of a Neptunian week. We also have Mercury going into Pisces at the end of the week on the 15th. Now, remember, he's been in Aquarius since January. We've gotten used to having him be kind of smart-mouthed and a little snappy, right? Whenever a planet spends a while, we start to go, yeah, I'm feeling a little smart-mouthed and snappy. So we're going to go into Pisces. And Pisces is, remember in the pool when you would get and you'd play tea party and you go underwater and you do the little thing and you didn't talk. You could, but you didn't know words. So Pisces has no words. He has feelings, but he has no words. So we're going to watch that energy kind of roll in. And then we also have Mars this week. He's not doing a lot of stuff, but he's in Gemini, and he does have a little bit of an argument with Pluto. And he also has a little bit of an argument, and that argument is on the 9th, where he goes, you can't, Mars opposite contraparallel, it's contraparallel Pluto. He goes, as people are going, Mars is an opposite Pluto. It's contraparallel, which means they're opposite each other by declination. Mars goes, you can't make me. That's Mars and Gemini. You can't make me do that. So if you watch that energy in yourself or in your kids or in whoever, you can't make me. And you're like, you're right, I can't. Do you want it? No. All right. Okay. And then they burst into tears. And then you go, oh, that was big. Because they've been working on getting that out. They've been working on saying that. But it was hard. And so then when they say it, they cry. And that's okay. That's Mars. And he's in Gemini, so he tends to be a little bit, that kind of Gemini energy where, like a little this, little that, little this, little, and he's answering to Mercury in Aquarius, so he's very hyped, very jammed, very up in the air. And then he fights with Pluto and he goes, can't make me do that. I'm like, you're right, I can't. You get to do it if you want. You don't get to do it if you don't want. You don't have to. Can't make you. Does it make sense to do it? Probably, but if you're not going to do it, I can't force you. And then he has an aspect to the nodes on the 12th, again by declination, where he partners with going forward. And he says, okay, I'm going to go forward this way. And that's the 12th. So he has this little power struggle, this 9th, 10th, and then he bursts into tears when all the Neptune happens, or, gets very frustrated and goes off and takes a long bath, and then he goes out. And then we also have a gift coming in with Uranus in a quintile aspect to the South Node, a gift on the 14th. So we're going to watch for a present, and we also have opportunity to, readjust our house. A good week for doing diets, and it's very emotional because we have that new moon kind of making new commitments. And then, of course, yesterday, Pallas Athena went into Pisces. So she's been in Aquarius being very smart. Now she's going into the ocean. So we're going to be very emotionally intuitive, but she might not have words. Mm-hmm. So with that, whenever the intuitive planets are hanging out in water, I encourage you to watch for references that come in rather than thinking it. You get a feeling, you get a go. And of course, all this Pisces, think song lyrics. Like you're going to wake up in the morning, the sun will come out tomorrow, or you'll go, whatever. So I was, all the TV shows that do music start now, American Idol's starting, The Voice is starting. You get to see the auditions of people singing. So I was watching the American Idol ones last night, and they all told stories of somebody dying and sobbing, and then they did their show. So everybody was crying. The judges were crying, the person was crying. And I'm like, oh, it's Pisces, man. Just cry. This is a cry week. It's okay. That's what we're supposed to do. It's good. But it's that feeling space. And, and a lot of times people get a little nervous that they're going to get overwhelmed. And that's okay. If you feel a little overwhelmed this week, that's why I'm going to give you the gradient. Because sometimes you're going to be choo, 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 choo. You're going to put on, the little dance music and dance, dance, dance. I'm going to put on my Brazilian music after this and finish my taxes. And then other times, sniffle, sniffle, where it's very emotional. So, I don't dislike emotion, but there are people that get really mad. What are you making me cry for? Yeah, it's good.
So you never gave us a number for the scale, but would you say 2 to 10? And it's like a little bit of an emotional roller coaster, would you say?
Well, it's still a roller coaster. Remember, Mars is in Gemini. We're still doing training wheels until we get to until we get to April 23rd. Because Mars in Gemini, think about when you're riding a training wheel, you got your bike and you got the 2 wheels, and then it goes a little on this wheel in your bike, and then you go straight, and then it goes this wheel on the bike. So we're still on training wheels till April 23rd with Mars back and forth, a little of this, a little of that. Maybe I should do this, maybe I should do that. He's not necessarily decisive.
Okay. All right. So when you were talking about the squares to the nodes, you said that normally we want to choose the north node. If it's a square in our own chart, we're choosing the north node of our own chart, but this is a square collectively. So we would be choosing like the collective north node, which is in Gemini, correct? It's in Gemini. So can you give us a little bit, we talked about this a little bit last week, but can you give us a little of a flavor for how we would know if we're choosing a Gemini thing or a Sag thing?
Gemini you're going to have 2 options. Sag is going to be the know-it-all place. Well, I know it all. I don't have to listen to that. I don't have to whatever. And Gemini North Node is, let me think about whether I want to do that or not. Right. So, an example, a lot of the states are saying they're getting rid of the mask mandate. And a lot of people are going, I don't know about that. And then other people are going, Sag on the South Node, burn the masks. We literally had it, the Idaho. They were burning the masks. So when you have a, maybe, maybe not, that's the direction you want to go. And as opposed to the South Node, I know it all. I'm free. I don't have to do this anymore. Careful. But
couldn't you have that same know-it-all on the other side of like, I know that that's a bad idea?
Gemini is a beginner mind.
Right.
So Sagittarius is a know-it-all mind.
Right.
So, that whole thing, a teacher, a student, good teachers learn from their students.
Mm-hmm.
Because they learn a new way to teach it. Every good teacher you ever talk to, they learn from their students.
The same with parents, right?
Same with parents. So the North Node in Gemini is beginner's mind.
Mm-hmm. So whatever stance you have, maybe it's considering the other side might actually have some merit.
That's actually an excellent way to look at it. Like both sides have merit,
right?
But don't assume a righteous position. That's probably a better way, because Sagittarius can be very righteous.
Right. Okay. All right.
So South Node goes after righteousness, right? It wants to show righteousness. Well, you think you're right, huh? Let's see.
Is it also our like default mode? Like South Node's also like where we feel comfortable. It's like known. We're not questioning things, but it can be to our detriment because we're staying stuck in this old place, right?
Right. Well, in our natal chart, that's more the case. When it's a transiting node, what it is the natal chart had you come from the south, you go to the north, but the South Node was what you were in the last life. So you're familiar with it. You feel comfortable in that energy. It's very familiar to you. So you're good at it. It feels familiar. It's comforting. So we can go and hang out in the South Node, but we're supposed to be heading towards the North Node. That's the path of development in this lifetime. Fine. Transiting nodes, which are what's running in the sky that we're talking about now, unless you're born with a Sag or a Gemini node, in which case you're having huge changes. But transiting nodes say you always have a choice. We have free will. You can decide which way you're going to go. Righteousness, beginner mind. Neither is bad, right? And then you go, I don't know. Is there a trick in there? I think there might be a trick in there. And, I'll point you back to when the hearings happened for Amy Coney Barrett and Kamala Harris was questioning her. And Amy kept going, I can feel you're trying to set me up, Senator. I know there's a trick in there. I know that. So she said, how do you feel? Are cigarettes dangerous? Is this dangerous? And Amy said, well, general accepted. Well, general accepted. And then Kamala said, climate change. And Amy went, oh, well, there's few opinions on that. So she goes, okay, so you don't believe in climate change. And Amy went, caught me. That's the Gemini Sag dynamic, right? And so when you run into that dynamic, when you think you're right, the South Node is going to come along and point out, the North Node rather, and Gemini is going to come along and point out, well, maybe you're not so right. And so you want to go, oh no, but and if you find yourself being defensive and you're defending a position, you want to kind of look at it. So we just saw the Pope go to a city that was totally bombed, but also was it was the birthplace of Abraham, the founder of the three big religions that are currently, three of the big ones. There's other ones too, but he went to that place as a point of reconciliation in, I think it was Iran or Iraq. I always get them mixed up, but Gemini, right? So he went to this place to reconcile and connect and to say, we're all together. We're all alike. We're all part of the same team, even if we play different positions and different roles. So the Gemini says, okay, what are our choices? The Sag goes, I know better than you. So if you find yourself doing, I know better than you, and you may know better than them, and that's okay, but they have something to teach you too. And that's where we have to remember, when you talk about your daughter, when you dropped your pen and she crawled over and picked it up for you, and, she knew mom needed her pen and she gave it to you. That's the awareness of the beginner mind. Or when you watch a little kid watch a squirrel in the park, and, you see squirrels, you don't really pay attention, but a little kid going, oh, there's a squirrel. Look at that. Look at his tail. Oh, well, he ran up the tree. Did you see how he ran up the tree? And you're like, wow, he did. He ran up the tree. How cool is that? It's that energy of getting out of the Sag into the Gemini where you're in, let me think of other things. Let me come up with other ways. And Aquarius Mercury goes, that's a good idea. Right. So it's an interesting dichotomy because we don't normally think of, we think of Sag as educated and but Gemini is, where do you get the milk in the corner? where all the people that are moving are learning their new neighborhoods. Because Gemini is the local mind, the local neighborhood, the local connections. So does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. And it'll be really curious to see how that's showing up in everybody's lives.
Yeah.
Because all the storyline is going to be different for each person, right?
Yeah. Well, it's going to be wherever the node's going in their house, wherever their Gemini house is and wherever their Sag house is.
Okay. So check that out in your chart.
So the south node's going through the midheaven, in my case, and the north node's going through the fourth house of home. So I put an offer in on a condo, right? So fourth node through, I'm getting another house.
Because the offer got accepted, right?
The offer got accepted. Now I have to do the mortgage. The offer got accepted. Yeah. So I'm like, yeah. And I did 2 offers, right? The first offer got accepted, got turned down. And then the second offer got accepted. So I'm like, all right, this is where I'm supposed to be. And, so it's Gemini, so when the first one got dinged, I'm like, all right, I'm not going to worry about it. I know it's Gemini North Node. I'm just going to look again. And boom, the second one showed up. So it's that kind of energy of, if you don't like the first, there will be a second. So that's good. But also that there are choices in terms of what you're going to do. Right. So.
Yeah. You said last week for us everything was going to be happening 2 times, and that's going to continue throughout this week, right?
That's because Mars is in Gemini. That's continuing until April 23rd.
Okay. All right.
Doubles. Just kind of you go to the store, buy 2. I had somebody come over for dinner last night. One of my students came over for dinner, and she was talking about there's something called a sun butter that Trader Joe's sells, or like a peanut butter cup or something. And she got her boyfriend to drive her down from the Bronx because she didn't want to take the train. And she got in the car, and he says, "Do you have any food? Because I'm hungry. Just come from the gym." She goes, "Well, I have a sun butter cup." He goes, "Oh, can I have it?" She was bringing it to me, right? And she gives it to him, and then she goes, "I knew I should have brought 2. I knew I should have brought 2." Right? So it's buy 2 because when you get home, someone's going to eat it. Or nice. Buy 2 because that's a good thing to do, right? So, yeah.
All right. Okay. So we have Mercury in Pisces. We have a week of overwhelmed emotions. Tears are okay. Do the things that help you ground. You're saying that we have our new moon in Pisces, 23 degrees.
23 degrees.
So would you say to look at 23 degrees in your chart and see if you have things that are going to be activated during that new moon? Okay. This is a fertile new moon. It's
very fertile. You want to make babies. Great one to make babies.
Good time to get pregnant. Choose, and this could be getting pregnant with a project.
Business.
Yes, exactly. Okay. Yep. Choosing the creative journey. You said it's a delicious new moon. This first whiff of spring. I've been imagining like what's happening in the ground right before springtime happens, right? There's like
kind of pop out. Yeah.
There must be this like this excitement right before everything starts to pop above ground. So that's kind of where we're at right now. We're in that we're about to go.
You're gonna have, or you just see that little spurt, coming out of the ground. Yeah.
Right. Okay. This is a good week to really prioritize your meditative space or your dance time or whatever it is that you do to transcend out of just this earthly reality and start to tap into where the visions are, the creativity is, and then you're going to be bringing those qualities into
the thing the dream you're working on building.
Right. Yep. Okay. This is a time to really trust. That it might be foggy, it might be unclear, but there's this element of trust. You brought in trusting your chart. So if you want to be looking at your astrology chart and start to glean more from what that chart is telling you, but it won't be totally clear in a lot of cases, and that's okay. Maybe enjoy being on the foggy beach. I love that visual. Sometimes the fog clears a little bit and we see the ocean or the trees on a cliff above us or whatever, but there's that element of kind of walking in the fog.
But the stuff's there. That's right. It's there. You just can't see it.
Right.
That's the beauty of fog, because it's there, but I can't see it, and that's okay. That's okay. Yeah. You don't have to see it right now. Trust the process. Yeah.
Okay.
Relax into the arms of the universe.
I love that. Okay. And you talked about honoring the process of becoming. So a little homework assignment is to look at those time-lapse videos of a flower blooming, butterflies hatching, seasons changing, but just really sink into this idea of becoming something and enjoying the process of becoming or flowering or opening up or changing, all these things that are happening. Okay. You're saying that there's a gift this week, like towards the end of the week, and that the gift will maybe require some readjustment though?
Yeah. What happens when we have the gift aspects, it's Uranus in a biquintile, which is a gift of harmonic grace to the south node. So whenever we have a quintile, it's a gift. It's the people that can play the piano without really thinking about it. They just do it. There's no effort involved. It just kind of happens. And it shifts things. And so in this case, a quintile to the node of fate is going to help us go, oh, okay, that makes sense. Or it comes in as something because it's Uranus is having this little power struggle with Saturn, but Uranus is going to whisper in your ear, change is good. You're going to be okay. Or it's going to remove a roadblock that you thought you had. So you and I had the conversation before we started about removing roadblocks, removing things that make you feel blocked. So Uranus aspect in the south node can release a block and bring in a gift because it's a quintile. And sometimes it's a block you didn't even know you had, but you kind of go, that just kind of seemed to disappear, didn't it? And it's gone. And then you're like, where did it go? So that energy that's the gift. It's a gift from Uranus.
Okay. And pay attention to song lyrics, or song lyrics will be coming in. And
yeah,
so maybe
pay
attention
all this Pisces is song lyrics. So you're going to be hearing songs. You're going to be like, one of the songs on the American Idol audition, she sang a song from the Commodores. And of course, Lionel Richie was one of the judges. So he's up singing the song, because that was before he became Lionel Richie. He was part of the Commodores. And it was called Zoom. The mother of the girl that got picked, the mother came in and sang Zoom, right, with Lionel Richie. It was very cute, but it was also, he was like, Zoom, that's your favorite song? That's my favorite. I mean, I used to sing that song, So it's like, watch for lyrics, watch for music, watch for people sending you music, watch for, lately I've been opening up charts with all this stuff in Pisces, and I get a song when I open the chart. My first glimpse of a chart is a song lyric. And I'm like, all right, what the hell? I'm having Neptune. What are you going to do? So Neptune, of course, is that imaginal place. So watch for things that carry you off on your imagine. We're going to have Coming Home 2 opening up, which was one of the best when I was a kid growing up. It was 88 or whatever. It was a long time ago. One of the best movie, 98, 32 years, whatever it was. 88, yeah. And so Neptune is also can be, I get carried away on laughter. I get carried away on a dream. I get carried away on music, that kind of energy. So, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Or you may find you're writing poetry, or you're reading your old poetry books. Yes. Or you're going back, I think a lot of people with, the banning Dr. Seuss last week were like, Green Eggs and Ham, like I remember that book, it's like watch for quirky little childhood things to pop up from the recesses of your memory. And you go, oh, I remember that, and suddenly you're reciting a song lyric from when you were a kid or you were younger, because it's Neptune has that, it's kind of like Alzheimer's in what's the right word for it? It's kind of like Alzheimer's in the moment, that you kind of go into this weird little memory portal and you kind of pull up stuff and you go, wow, that was a weird wormhole I went into there, but it came back, so
and it's so funny. As you're talking about this, my children are sitting on the couch and they were playing music too loud, and I'm sitting there snapping at them. But you're talking about song lyrics and childhood things, and they're literally sitting on the couch playing music way too loud. I was like, oh, over there. Awesome. Okay, and then
live astrology in action.
Exactly. And we still have our training wheels on. So
training wheels till the middle of April. Yeah.
Be gentle with yourself still. I love this quote from Einstein. If a fish were to judge itself by how it could climb a tree, then all of its life, it would think it's stupid. And so this is where we're at. We're at this place where we're doing new things. We're going into new territory. We can't judge ourselves for not being there yet or not knowing how to do it yet, but also focusing on that unique genius that is you and continuing to call that forward as we're going to this new territory, because you're already seated with the qualities that you need to go into this new realm. It's not like they're not in you. They're in you.
They're all in there, and they're going to emerge. They're like planted in your ground. So they're all going to start coming up like little flowers.
Yes.
Little plants blooming.
Beautiful. So focusing on those qualities in you that are maybe lying dormant and ready to start popping above the surface, and focusing more on those than on the places where you don't feel like you're good enough, or where you don't feel like you're doing it right. And this is all in our beginner's mind, trying new things with this Gemini North Node, and also with everything, just all the changes that
all new.
Going through. Yep. And thank you so much. I am so excited for all the things that your new move and the new territory you're going into. I'm so excited for you. I just think it's going to be amazing. And I know the audience is too. Yep.
Yay. All good. Yep. Change is good.
Change is good. And thank you for modeling that for all of us, and seeing how you're stepping into new horizons and going out of your comfort zone and all these things that we're all being asked to do. And there's going to be some really, really exciting things coming with Anne. We've been working on some awesome projects.
We have secrets.
We have secrets that we can't tell you yet, but we're going to be telling you.
But we're going to tell you soon.
We are going to tell you. So there's just going to be more opportunity for Anne, more opportunity for her guidance to be with you and to help you navigate all these changing times and changing tides, and using astrology as that focal point for you to help you stay anchored in something timeless. Really, it's funny. I said that to Christopher Renstrom. He goes, "It's so funny that the study of time is actually timeless, because astrology is a study of time, but it really is timeless and ancient." And so we have this wonderful tool made possible by you, Anne, and by the other incredible astrologers that we have here at Astrology Hub and in the world. Thank you.
Astrology. I mean, we all have this amazing gift called astrology. I'm always in awe of it. Every day I'm like, oh wow,
Yes.
Oh, yeah. How powerful.
For those of you who are interested, and Anne, you're going to have more and more opportunity to do this with your place in Florida. But for those of you who are interested in understanding how the sky and the movement in the sky that you can actually see visually correlates with the astrology chart, and how to really start to infuse that visual experience of the sky into your practice of astrology, I recommend getting on the wait list for Gemini Brett's Sacred Astronomy course. It's Sacred Astronomy for astrologers, and he really is one of the world's premier expert astrologers on astronomy. So he's really helping us bring that astronomy into astrology, which they were always married before. And so if you want to be one of the first to know when that new course is opening up, go to astrologyhub.com/sacred astronomy and get on the wait list. We're going to be opening up enrollment for his course that's going to be in April very soon here. And very excited about that.
Yeah, he's an excellent teacher. And it is, it really, you kind of think of, you gather, like when you see Mercury, and he's a Gemini, right? So Mercury's his boss. Mercury reaches up and gathers, and then he brings it down to Earth. So Gemini Brett's really good at reaching up and gathering the stars and bringing them down to Earth and helping you really understand. Remember the first moving pictures where they would watch the stars rise, because the stars were different every season, and they would rise and move across the heavens, and they would tell the stories of the stars. So you're reconnecting back to the original motion picture. And of course, Neptune is motion pictures. So yeah, and he's an excellent teacher.
And the original way that astrology was practiced. I mean, we didn't have computers and charts and things. They were literally tracking the movements of the sky visually and then mathematically. And so it's very enriching for anybody who loves the sky. It's so enriching to start to understand it, but really feel it. That's what I love about him too, is he's really encouraging us to feel our connection to the stars and the planets and open up to their messages directly. And it's really beautiful. So again, that's astrologyhub.com/sacred astronomy. It's going to be good for any level of astrology student too. So don't feel like you have to, be totally proficient in the language yet. It's actually going to help you get proficient in the language.
Well, it is. And he's taught it, I'm on the board of OPA, the Organization for Profession, and he's taught it as part of our certification program, and everybody that's taken it has loved it. So
yeah. Awesome. Okay. Thanks everybody for being here. Have a great week. It's okay to cry this week if you need to, but listen to your music and dance around and remember we're in the fog and it's okay. There is reality there. It's just we can't totally see it yet.
And you got kind of foggy during the course of the show. You know?
Nice. Awesome.
Kind of luminesces, the background kind of luminesces behind you. So that's
Awesome.
good. Amanda modeled foggy for you. Now, out on the back and have them sing, you know.
Yes. Perfect. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Thank you so much for being a part of our community and for making astrology a part of your life. We'll catch you on the next episode.
Okay.
Thanks,
bye. So long.